Scott leads Advocatus Consulting in Silverback Ventures, where he helps companies unlock growth by optimizing operations and finances, building strong cultures, and creating foundations for lasting profit and impact. A 3-time entrepreneur, consultant, growth coach, and impact investor with over 30 years of C-level experience, Scott brings real world application to every engagement. He can empathize with owners and cut straight to the root cause of what's holding their business back. He has mentored over 100 students through Clemson University's College of Business and speaks regularly to entrepreneurs and students across the Southeast. Scott lives outside Charlotte with his high school sweetheart. He's the proud father of 2 grown kids and spends his free time hiking, golfing, and working with his hands. Thanks for joining me again, Scott, on the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I'm excited to have you back.
It is absolutely my honor, Courtney, as always. Proud to be the first and proud to be whatever number we are now.
It looks like 52, which is amazing. So
Sweet.
if you missed it, you can go back to my first guest episode and listen to Scott's original episode, which walks you through his whole journey of starting his businesses and what brought him to where he is today. So now we get to play catch up a little bit. So, Scott, you've been consulting for 10 years with zero paid advertising. Walk me through how that actually works. Where is your pipeline coming from?
Yeah, I really spent a lot of time, Courtney, early on. You start your business and everybody and their brother tells you have to go to all these networking meetings, you have to join all these networking groups, and you
Hmm.
have to immediately pay for Google ads and all the things. And I was like, well, first of all, I don't have any money. When I started, you're starting from zero.
Hmm.
So I didn't want to spend a lot of money on Google ads. I didn't really think the people, because I had been on the other side of the buying process as a COO looking for consulting services, I knew I wasn't going and just Googling. I knew what I would do was pick up the phone and call the people I trust the most as a senior leader in an organization, attorneys, bankers, CPAs, anybody who was my close advisor inside the business. And that's who I would get a recommendation from.
Yep.
So I said to myself, why don't I start there and start making friends with the people that my owners that I'm trying to sell to are going to ask for advice? And that's what we did. I had a ton of coffee meetings and just started introducing myself and the services to trusted advisors that are called upon by business owners to give them recommendations as to who they should hire for fractional leadership or for CFO services or for strategic planning, whatever the case may be. And that's really been the genesis of how I've been able to grow the business to where it is today. 10 years later, it's
Hmm.
crazy to look back and think about those early days, but praise God, I really have not had to up until probably last year, beginning of 2026, there was a quiet period where I was like, okay, I need to actually start doing some things. But from 2016 to the present, have had very little downtime, which has been an amazing blessing that I can only attribute to God just saying, "Hey, put you in the right place," and being willing to say yes to when He asks you to do something.
Hmm.
He's going to bless it.
Yeah. How do you go about those relationships with some of those referral partners then? So if it's like, do you have, now here's an agreement with this accountant or this banker of they think of you or like you refer them out as well. How do you continue to nurture those relationships so that one, you stay top of mind and two, you are kind of in it together?
Yeah, that's very well said. The in it together thing is a big deal,
Hmm.
because I don't randomly just pick anybody.
Yeah.
There are certain people you hear about when you talk to business owners where like, oh, there's certain banks that have a good reputation. There's certain CPAs that have a good reputation. You just have to listen a little bit and you hear the same names popping up. And once I found out who the good people were,
Yep.
and some of that, to be perfectly honest, was trial and error. I met some not so good referral
Yeah.
partners, but I would say, look, this is something that we can go to market together. I'm going to
Hmm.
be in a position from typically early on, it was from a CFO perspective. I'm going to be in a position to be the right hand person to this business owner and be able to point them to a banker or a uh, insurance person or a CPA or an attorney or whatever the case may be. So let us work together to figure out how our services overlap, how they complement each other. Do we have the same core values? Do we kind of target the same customers? And then all along, we would just set up recurring meetings, just early, especially early on. Hey, let's
Mm-hmm.
get together once every couple of months just to say hello.
Yeah.
And then once I started referring, because I started referring to them before they started referring back to me.
Yep. Yep.
I'm a big believer that you just gotta. I just want to take care of the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were came to me and said, "Hey, I need an attorney," well, I'm not an attorney, but I could refer you somebody, and it doesn't benefit me at all. I
Right.
will say
Right.
the referral relationships, and maybe I could have made some more money along the way, but I never had any kind of financial arrangement for the referrals.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
I referred you, I the only thing I wanted in return is for you to take care of my clients and for you to refer back to me if you thought it fit well for us.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I'm the same way of like financially, it doesn't, my hope is that it comes back to me in the same way that I sent it to them, right? And I think this also applies to other businesses as well. Whether you don't have to be in a service per se, you could be a product based business owner, and you
Of
could look at
course,
this approach as there's other product based business owners, and how can we build really solid relationships, talk about each other online, have some sort of collab, like it works outside of just being a consultant.
it works so much better.
Yeah.
It works so much better. It is a force multiplier.
Yep.
Collaboration is a force multiplier that so few business owners take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And once you see it happen in real time, you're like, oh my goodness, what have we been waiting for?
Right.
Those folks that you normally thought of as competitors, what are they doing? They're
Yep.
targeting the same customers with the
Exactly.
same type of product. If you
Mhm.
have the exact same product as your competitor, you should just fold up and go home
Right.
because there's no business, there's no mileage in just competing heads up. Figure out a way to complement
Mhm.
and then go with a bigger ask, and all of a sudden you have all the shelf space.
Yeah. Yep. So you also mentioned previously when you were chatting more about like how you develop those relationships, you also mentioned how do you make sure you're really aligned on your values?
Mm.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've realized that alignment and those values weren't there? Maybe you thought they were there and then they weren't, or maybe you just weren't to that point in the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's such a good question because that happened recently.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it was one of those moments. It's disappointing, number one,
Yeah.
and you come back to the vetting process, that initial meeting. So I have a 90-minute meeting with a potential client for free upfront, and a lot of the questions center around how do we think about business? How do we think about life? How do we think about serving people? You know me well enough to know that I'm a servant first. And
Mhm.
if I can make money doing it, great. But I really just want to help people. And I know that sounds cliche in this day and age, but that's truly what it comes down to. If I have skills that I can use to help somebody, that's what I want to do. And if they pay me for it, great. Um, During the conversation, I want to talk to the potential client to make sure that they have that same mindset. How do you think about? So one of the questions I always ask, let's get practical, is what problem are you trying to solve?
Yep. Yep.
And if I get this blank stare like, well, I'm just trying to beat the next guy selling widgets on Amazon, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know how we can accomplish that because all business was created to solve a problem. If there's
Mhm.
not a need, if there's not an issue, if there's not a void in the market, there's not a business.
Mhm.
So once we start talking about what problem they're trying to solve, then I say, okay, why are you trying to solve that? What's the personal connection? Because people buy from people and people have get into a business because they have some connection to it, whether that be growing up, I had a need and I couldn't fill it. So I created a business to fix that, whatever the case may be. So once we have those conversations around what is the problem you're trying to solve and why you're trying to solve it, it becomes quickly evident whether or not we are talking the same language, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, what happened recently was we had the initial conversation. We were talking the same language. We were doing fantastic. We went a couple years in, and all of a sudden, the language started to shift from I really want to solve this problem to I really want to make more money, and I really want to make more money to the detriment of solving this problem.
Mm,
And then we got ourselves like, all right, you're sitting back going, it just feels different. I don't know how else to describe it other than it just feels different. The conversations are different, the alignment towards solving a problem, because when I'm in with a client, I'm in. Like I become, it's no longer a you and I, it's a we. Like I'm part of the squad and we're going to get after this problem 110% until we solve it. When all of a sudden we're in the trenches trying to solve a problem and the business owner is diverging over here to make more money to the detriment of us actually solving this problem for the people that need it solved,
yeah.
we stopped. I paused. I said, okay, time out. I remember saying this in a leadership team meeting with, some very, very high powered individuals and said, I think we're getting off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get back to what's our goal? What is our Everest that we're trying to conquer? What are we trying to get behind? What problem are we trying to solve? And when that conversation turned into, well, if we just make enough money, then we can focus on it later on sometime. I said, no, I think it's time for us to round up our engagement and move on to something else,
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be
which
hard to
was
be six.
terribly
Yeah.
scary. But anyway, I
Right.
interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, it's scary because number one, there's a financial impact on you, right? And number two, like how do you still come out on the other side with the positive relationship, but also seeing like
Mm-hmm.
we're not aligned in what needs to happen next. And I can't advise you on moving forward in this way because it isn't what I think is best for your business. How do you then how do you then have those conversations? Like number one, from a financial aspect, that's scary, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've been there too, where you're like, I'm taking this leap of faith and I need to trust the Lord with my business. And
Come
gosh,
on.
it's really hard. It's really hard to do that he'll provide, something better on the other side of that. But it's really
Mm,
hard in the moment to actually know and live that out. So what have you done or what did you do kind of as your next steps in number one, the conversation with that client, and then number
mm.
two, moving forward to find something different?
Yeah, that's so good. Setbacks are set up for something better. I absolutely love that. Um, the conversation with the client really centered around, and I pulled him aside separately and said, I really just I don't think we can help you any longer.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a point now where we're I'm advising you one way and you're choosing a different way. And we both think our way is the best way.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to be amazing. I think you have the potential to actually solve this problem, but I don't think it's wise for us to continue because you're going to be paying me to do work that I don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we came out of it on the other side. He's like, okay, I understand. I am sad, but I understand that's how you feel. And I said, I'm not going to leave you hanging. We'll extend it out. We gave him like a month-long runway and said, okay, we're going to transition everything out, and everything was fine. But the breath that you held at the end of that when you sent your last invoice and you're just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
is uh that is a good double-digit percentage of your total business that's just now not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I believe we talked about in the very first episode is that balance between doing the work and finding the work.
Yeah.
If you don't have that pipeline in the background, churning away, you run into that situation where, nobody ever thinks they're going to have to get rid of a client. There are
Hmm.
times when contracts end and you have stated ended to your contract. You plan for that.
Yeah.
When you come into a situation where you really feel convicted that it's time to exit before the contract is over, you haven't planned for that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're just like, oh, all right, I got to make up that revenue somehow, some way. So I went back to basics. I went back to basics and said, okay, let me go back to those same partners that
Yep.
have been good sources of referrals previously. And to your point earlier, what you could easily get caught up in the, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next, and how are we
Hmm.
going to do this, and how are we going to do that, and you got the mortgage, you got the house, you got all the expenses. Don't stop
Yeah.
to sit back and say, okay, I believe God's going to honor a decision that is based upon living a life out of values that are foundationally set on Him, and I'm just going to trust that it's going to work out. And in the moment, you have to train yourself and convince yourself that we actually do live by faith and not by sight.
Yeah.
And this time of seemingly trial is a time of stretching so you can go deeper and grow deeper in your faith. And that's what ultimately happened. And right at that moment where I was like, okay, we've had this contract ended for 2 months. Something dramatic is going to have to change because we really need that money.
Yeah.
Um, I had a conversation with another client's outside the crazy connections, like 6 or 7 degrees away
Yeah.
from this new client. And he's like, well, hold on. You worked with this client 5 years ago. I really like them. If you took care of them, then you can take care of my friend. And let me introduce you. And a week later, I got a
Wow.
client that was paying double what the client I left was.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It works out. And it's usually something better on the other side
Yeah.
every
And I
time.
think that's what we have to call on those moments.
Hmm.
We have to move forward by looking backward and
Yep.
recognizing where God showed up for us in the midst of what we thought in the natural was a huge setback. He was using to, he's far more interested in our development as a person than our destination. So he's developing us to be more faithful and to be more trusting. And once we get there, then he's like, okay, now you're ready.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If you've been running your business with a gut feeling that something is off, but you have no idea where to actually look, or maybe you love the work you're doing, but you're constantly tired because of it, this is for you. I want to build you a roadmap. 90 minutes together, we'll review where you stand against the Monarch Method framework and build a plan for exactly what needs to happen to get you there. Within a week, you'll know what's first, what's second, and what can wait. I only have 3 spots open this month. So visit monarch.com/ops-health-check today to sign up and get your roadmap. We'll also link it in the show notes. You're going to open your laptop on Monday morning and actually know what you're doing. You're going to sit down at dinner with your family, and your mind is actually going to stay there. Okay, let's get back to the episode. So, in your onboarding process, you have that first 90-minute call. And I believe that's where, or I guess maybe this is more of your onboarding once after that 90-minute call is up. You have something called Conquering Everest.
Mm,
What is
mm.
that? And what problem was it built to solve?
Yeah, it starts in that initial meeting, that vetting process where we talk about what problem are you trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get in, once they say yes and they believe that we both believe, and I don't want to say it's a only them decision.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of us is in business just to make money.
Yeah.
We're in business to serve and to help amazing companies doing amazing things, do them more efficiently and do them better.
Mm-hmm.
If we can be a catalyst to greater impact, you and I both, that's how we want to do it. We want to catalyze growth and impact. So when we onboard, that's one of the questions we have is we go through an analogy around the problem being solved being the top of Mount Everest. You
Yeah.
know, there's a fantastic book I read called The Vision Map, where it talks about this guy that used to take entrepreneurs to the top of, not Everest, but top of these giant mountains. And he said, when you're standing at the base of the mountain and you're looking up, it looks impossible for you to get there. But once you've done all the work and get to the top of the mountain and look back down, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. So I took that analogy and said, hey, what if we took that as a strategic planning tool
Mm.
to say, what problem are you trying to solve? That's your Everest. And start from the end, using Stephen Covey's start with the end in mind. Start
Hmm.
at the end, the destination. What does your destination look like? What does the world look like if you actually accomplish this goal? You'd be
Yep.
amazed how many business owners can't articulate that
Yeah.
because they're actually not in business to solve a problem. They're in business to make money. So part of that is to
Mm.
help them reframe their business strategy to be about actually accomplishing their goal, which is going to change the world for the better. And the byproduct of changing the world for the better is making money.
Yeah.
And then we walk backward from your destination's up here. What steps do we have to take going all the way back down the mountain to where you are today? What do you have to do tomorrow to get one step closer to the destination? And it really helps totally change the mindset of a business owner who's being overwhelmed by the enormity of all the things they feel like they have to do.
Yeah.
It helps filter out all the noise and say, yeah, we don't have to do any of that.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a great tool to utilize of like, what's a check-in point? Where did we start? And, a quarter of the way through, midway through, where are we at and that's kind of like our, okay, the checkpoint we can holistically take together and see we are moving in the right direction.
Yep.
Excuse me, even though some days it might feel like, why is this such a slog still? Well, it's really hard work when you're really trying to transform things from the inside. So that seems like a really awesome touch point.
Well, it's an easy visual, Courtney, right?
Yeah.
Like I put it on a whiteboard and we talk
Hmm.
about inevitably, I obviously in my bio, I used to hike a lot before I had my knees replaced, but I'm trying to get back there.
Yeah.
But one of the things you always encounter is you always encounter some kind of obstacle. The
Hmm.
path goes from point A to point B, and it goes up and down the side of the mountain, whatever. And all of a sudden, the night before, there was a huge storm, a tree fell down, and all of a sudden, there's a giant tree in your way.
Yeah.
It's no different than when you're going through your career or going through your
Hmm.
life in general. I talk about this with the students I get to mentor because it's as much about personal life as it is about business life. Like you're going to
Yeah.
come to obstacles, and if you can reframe those obstacles as an opportunity to go a different path but still get to the same destination. The struggle or the challenge happens when you go off the path and you never get back on.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're just circling around the bottom of the mountain, you're not getting anywhere. So we talk about the foundational company values as being guardrails that keep you within the parameters of your pathway forward and your destination. So you have your destination to the top of Everest, you have your big rocks, your guardrails or your values, and then you have the stepping stones, which are your milestones along the way that you check in on so that you can get to the destination. And once
Yeah.
you kind of show that visual, everybody goes like, it's just like light bulbs popping off like crazy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love it. You referenced Ikigai in the prep work that we did leading up to this podcast episode. And can you explain more about what that is exactly?
Yes.
Something about the intersection of calling and values.
Yes, I love this conversation. I love this conversation. I'm a huge ancient Japanese culture nerd.
Okay.
Why that is, I have no idea. Maybe back in the day, I wanted to be a samurai. I don't know. I always thought it was cool. Um, but there's some crazy, interesting foundational truths found in ancient Japanese wisdom. And one of those words is ikigai. It literally translates to your reason for being.
Hmm.
And when you dive into the roots of the words, it is where your gifts and your talents and your passions meet a need in the world. Unbeknownst to me, It's crazy how this all transpires. Unbeknownst to me, I've been talking about those 4 or 5 things where your gifts, talents, and passions mean anything in the world with the students I've mentored for 8.5 years now. It wasn't until, I don't know, a year ago that I was like, hold on, I'm reading a book and it says, yeah, this is Ikigai. And I'm like, well, hold on. That's a much easier way to describe what I've been using 17 words for. Just call it Ikigai. And if people ask, it's where your gifts, talents, and passions meet a need in the world.
Nice.
And it totally transforms your life when you understand that your calling, not your vocation, your calling is where those things meet.
Yeah.
So you have gifts that are inherently yours. When I describe Courtney, I'm going to use a list of adjectives. That's not based on what you do. That's not based on anything but who you are.
Yeah.
You're naturally friendly. You're naturally talkative. You're naturally kind and giving, all of those things. That's just your gifts. God gave you those and they're uniquely yours. You have talents that you've developed over time through schooling or education or schooling or experience. And then you have passions, those things that bring you the most joy. And the opposite of that is those things that are societal ills or things in your life that you would desperately want to solve for. For some reason, God placed on my heart a burning desire to help young people and fatherless children. Now, my parents have been married 56 years. I have never experienced fatherlessness,
Yeah.
but that's just something that God put in me and said, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be an adopted uncle for as many young people as you possibly can. And I have been blessed to be able to be that person for over 100 now. I think it's 104, I believe,
Wow.
students that I still talk to today. My very first mentoring student from 8.5 years ago, I just talked to over Christmas because he was getting ready to have another baby and wanted to just let me know. And it
Wow.
is one of the greatest joys of my life to be able to walk through life with young people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a passion that God placed in my heart. So I said to myself, okay, if I can take the gifts God gave me, plus the skills I've developed over time, and intersect that with the passions I have and a need in the world, that's where you're designed. That's where God uniquely created you to go and be and have an impact.
Yeah.
And man, oh man, once you discover that, all kinds of fun things happen. You
Yep.
see things like I talk to people that have a marketing degree all the time about people that have a marketing degree see the world through a different lens. When I see how do we make this process more efficient, they're seeing how do we make it more marketable? How do we make it more pretty? How do we make it more appealing to the eye or to the ear? And I said, that's a unique talent that you've developed over time. If you can marry that with your passion, I spoke to a young person a couple days ago who has a passion for against people being trafficked.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have any experience. That's just something God put in his heart.
Yeah.
And he sees the world through a financial lens. He's like, I want to create systems so that we can get these people off the streets and we can take down these traffickers and we can do all these things. Once you start understanding how all those pieces fit together, where your unique gifts, talents, and passions meet and need the world, it opens up an avenue of how you go to work. How do you go to business? How do you determine what is next in your life? I knew very early on I needed to be a part of young people's lives, whether that's speaking on the stage or being a mentor or giving back to the community or having an entire house full of teenagers at our place all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
That's just something I cannot not do.
Yeah.
And everything I do is through the lens of how do I impact the lives of young people? I want to work with companies that do that. I want to be around people that do that. I want to be that person for other folks. And the Ikigai conversation is a foundational piece to discovering your calling in this world where God has placed you uniquely. I use the analogy all the time about the fingerprint. The fingerprint has been the universally accepted identifier for since 1908
Hmm.
because it's unique. Nobody has ever had the same fingerprint as another person,
Yep.
ever. That's pretty remarkable.
Hmm.
So even regardless of your feeling about faith, if you just recognize that in all of history, you're the only person that's ever had your fingerprint, that makes you unique and valuable far beyond words. And it means if your fingerprint's unique and then the hand's unique and the arm's unique, then the body's unique, the mind's unique, the things that are in your mind are uniquely yours. And if you have a calling on your life that you feel passionate about, where your ikigai lies, the only person that can do that is you.
Yeah.
And if you choose not to do that, shame on you.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Sorry, little sermonette over there.
It's perfect. I feel like that's like the best way to kind of start to close out this episode with is really, I think that's a great thought starter for people, something they can take away in action of maybe I need to be journaling more. Maybe I need to be really going in deep and doing the deep work to kind of flesh that out and figure out, am I able to actually work in these three areas as my vocation? Like that's the dream.
Yes is the answer to
That's the
that
dream.
question.
Yeah.
Yes is the answer to that question. Um, yeah, there's never been more ways to make money,
Yep.
but you'll spend a lot of time searching if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how we incorporate this in this episode, but I have an assessment that I
Yeah.
wrote for the students
Yep.
that I'd be happy to share with you to push out to everybody. It's called Living. It's
Perfect.
literally, it's not a personality test. It's not a Myers-Briggs. It's not a disc thing. It's a personal inventory of how you feel about you
Yeah.
that enables you to kind of see all the intersection of all those things.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I would hopefully people can reach out to you maybe to potentially get that
Yes.
for themselves. I think that would be a great tool for anyone interested. And can you just kind of share, Scott, you've been doing this for a long time. And for any other founders listening, like what is the one thing that you see founders getting wrong most consistently in, the last 6 months?
Mm. I think the thing that in the last 6 months, that's a very, very good qualifier.
Yeah.
Because if you had said that was the last 10 years, it's a different answer than in the last 6 months.
Hmm.
Right now, we're in a situation where technology is growing, and everybody says this. Everybody's been saying this since the initial creation of the light bulb. Technology is growing as faster than it possibly could, has ever grown before. That has never been more true than now.
Hmm.
Everybody's freaking out about AI. Everybody is freaking out about the economy and $4 gas. And everybody feels that they don't have a say. Business owners are coming to me saying, I don't know what to do, and I don't feel like I have any influence whatsoever. What I would say to you as a business owner is you have to lead with a servant's heart, take care of your people, and remember why you created the business in the first place. Take all that other stuff and push it to the side, refocus on your Everest, understand where you're going and what values are keeping you on the trail, because the economy and the influx of AI and how it's going to take and replace a lot of the routine things that we do, which is totally true, can be a good thing. If you close a blind eye to it, you're going to miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you adopt it fully and get rid of all your people, you're also going to miss an opportunity. So stay focused on what problem you're trying to solve, and then take care of your people. Put them in the right place, enable them to act as part of your shared vision, and just keep on keeping on. Keep on
Yep.
swimming, as we heard in Finding Nemo.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
right now it's very easy to just freak out and just not do anything. I mean, one of the
Hmm.
things, I mean, you experience it. Everybody's like, I don't want to have any, I don't want to spend any money. I don't want to do anything because I'm unsure what's going to happen. Well, we're not guaranteed a next breath.
Nope.
So we have to Plan as if we have a million years and act if we have 5 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree with that more. That's perfect. Yep. The time to act is now. Sitting on your hands is not an option. It's
No,
not an option. Yeah.
got to participate in the process.
Yeah. Okay, Scott. So, how can people find you and reach out and get connected to you?
Oh, I'd be happy to share that. Advocatus Consulting is very, very long. ADVOCATUS consulting.com, scott.woods at advocatusconsulting.com. Easier one is scott at silverbackventures.org. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. You can find me there. You can hit me up my cell phone, 704-685-2194. I know that's very unsure and scary saying your cell phone over the air. I don't care. I love people. And if you want to reach out and talk, I am always, always, always available.
Cool. Thank you, Scott, so much for joining me again for another episode of the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I enjoyed every minute of this conversation. And if you also enjoyed this conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out to Scott. I can say it firsthand. He is always here to be supportive and helpful, a great mentor. And also leave a review and let us know what you thought about this episode. We would love to hear it.
Yes, come on.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Courtney.